the unspoken dialogue. Have you ever looked into another's eyes, across a crowded room or in the sacred quiet of an intimate moment, and felt, just for a fleeting second, a spark of knowing so profound it bypassed all words? A flash of shared feeling, a silent recognition that seemed to touch soul to soul, as if a veil had momentarily thinned, granting you a glimpse into the very heart of their being. We have all brushed against these moments, these tender intuitions, these echoes of an unspoken dialogue that hint at a connection far deeper than our everyday conversations usually allow. Now, imagine that fleeting intuition amplified 1,000-fold, made constant, absolute. Imagine not just guessing, but knowing. Imagine the private theater of your mind, with its ceaseless flow of thoughts, its vibrant hues of emotion, its hidden galleries of memory, suddenly, completely open to another, and theirs, in turn, open to you. This is the threshold of our inquiry, the edge of a most mystical imagining. What happens when two souls, unshielded by the customary veils of private thought, truly, deeply connect? What unfolds in the extraordinary encounter between two genuine mind readers? For this exploration, let us understand a mind reader not as a performer of tricks, nor a casual scanner of surface thoughts, but as one whose consciousness is an open channel, capable of perceiving and being perceived with a clarity that dissolves all inner boundaries. What revelations, what profound challenges, what astonishing transformations await when two such consciousnesses become utterly transparent to one another, their inner worlds merging like two streams of pure light. This is the unspoken dialogue we seek to understand, a silent symphony of souls laid bare, the torrent of shared consciousness. And so they stand upon that threshold, these two souls with minds unveiled. The first wave of connection is not of words, not of gentle inference, but an instantaneous torrential inpouring, a merging of two vast rivers of consciousness. Imagine, if you can, the entirety of another's thought stream, not as curated speech, but as it truly is, a ceaseless cascade of images, raw and symbolic, fleeting memories, vivid as a lightning flash, or soft as a forgotten scent, intricate webs of association, half-formed questions, sudden, brilliant sparks of insight, the quiet hum of background processing, all laid bare, all received, all shared in a single, overwhelming, eternal moment. There are no barriers, no filters, no polite translations. It is the purity of direct knowing, the unedited manuscript of another's mind delivered whole into your own. At first, perhaps, a symphony of breathtaking complexity, where two orchestras of thought begin to play in instantaneous, intricate harmony, themes interweaving, melodies resonating, creating a music of understanding so profound it makes all spoken language seem a pale and clumsy imitation. You would perceive not just their conclusions, but the entire constellation of premises, experiences, and subtle intuitions that birth them. You would know the why behind every thought, the subtle architecture of their unique cognitive world. Yet this symphony could swiftly modulate into a cacophony, a bewildering deluge of unfiltered data. The sheer volume, the speed, the intimate, unshielded nature of another's inner chatter, their private anxieties, their mundane preoccupations, their sudden jarring shifts in focus, all this too becomes part of your immediate experience. The beauty of such unmediated knowing is immense, but so too is the challenge of navigating this boundless shared mental space without losing the anchor of your own distinct awareness. And deeper still than this torrent of shared thought, flows the even more potent current, the ocean of shared feeling. For in this mystical encounter, it is not merely the cognitive landscape that becomes transparent, but the entirety of the emotional realm. Imagine stepping directly into another's inner weather system, feeling the warmth of their most cherished joys as if they were your own suns, the biting chill of their secret fears like frost upon your own skin, their sudden surges of anger, a molten river coursing through your shared awareness, their quiet pools of sorrow, reflecting a grief that now holds two hearts in its gentle melancholic sway, their incandescent flares of passion igniting a shared fire. Every nuance, every subtle shift of their emotional atmosphere becomes your own lived experience, immediate, visceral, undeniable. This is empathy, magnified to an almost unbearable degree. A radical fusion of hearts where the boundaries of my feeling and your feeling begin to dissolve like salt in water. The potential for profound, instantaneous compassion is limitless, for you would know, not just intellectually but in every fiber of your being, the truth of another's pain, the authenticity of their joy. Yet, this ocean of shared emotion is also fraught with peril. How do you distinguish your own innate emotional currents from the powerful tides of another? How do you offer comfort when their sorrow threatens to drown you? How do you maintain your own emotional equilibrium when buffeted by the storms of their unresolved anxieties or their fiery righteous rage? This shared feeling is a crucible, demanding an extraordinary capacity for presence, for differentiation amidst fusion, for holding a compassionate space vast enough to contain two worlds of emotion, without being utterly consumed by their commingled immensity. The encounter becomes a profound lesson in the nature of feeling itself, stripped bare of all pretense, all defense. In this crucible of unshielded knowing, where thought flows into thought and feeling merges with feeling, the first casualty, the first magnificent edifice to tremble and fall, is the persona, that carefully constructed mask you wear for the world, that polished ambassador of your ego, crafted over years to navigate the complex theater of social expectation. It cannot survive this radical transparency. For how can a mask remain fixed when the every thought that shaped it, every insecurity it sought to conceal, every subtle strategy it employed, is laid bare, perceived as clearly by the other as by yourself? The very air of this encounter, saturated with unspoken truth, becomes a solvent to all artifice. Imagine the subtle calculations of your daily interactions, the curated words, the managed expressions, the parts of you strategically hidden or highlighted to achieve a desired effect. All these intricate performances, so vital for ordinary relating, become instantly, almost painfully, redundant. The carefully maintained image of who you wish to be seen as shatters against the undeniable reality of who you are, in all your unedited complexity, in that very moment. There is no backstage here, no private dressing room in which to compose yourself. The stage itself has dissolved, and you stand in the raw, unfiltered light of mutual perception. This is the death of persona, a profound unmasking, and with it comes an almost unbearable vulnerability, a psychic nakedness that can feel both terrifying and strangely liberating. The fear of judgment, of rejection, of being seen in your entirety, all these primal anxieties may surge to the surface, yet alongside them a quiet sense of release can dawn. For the energy required to maintain the facade is immense, and in its dissolution there is a profound rest, an arrival into a space of stark, unadorned authenticity. The roles you played, the titles you wore, the expectations you so diligently met, they fall away like ancient brittle costumes, leaving you standing in the simple, unassailable truth of your present being, wondering, perhaps for the first time, who you are without the familiar comfort and constriction of your many masks. And when the masks have shattered, when the carefully constructed facades lie in luminous dust at your feet, what then is revealed in this radical space of unshielded knowing? Here, in the stark light of mutual transparency, each of you becomes for the other an unsparing living mirror, not a polished glass reflecting mere surface, but a profound psychic looking glass that penetrates to the deepest, most hidden strata of the soul, revealing with undeniable clarity the unacknowledged country of the shadow, all that you have relegated to the darkness within, all the traits you have deemed unworthy, shameful, or too dangerous to integrate into your conscious self, your secret envies, your silent rages, your hidden fears, your buried griefs. These now stand illuminated, reflected back at you, not as your own internal landscape, but as directly perceived within the consciousness of the other, and through their knowing of you. Imagine the intensity of this encounter, to see your disowned self not as a vague inner discomfort, but as a tangible reality held in the mind of another. There is no place to hide, no comforting self-deception to retreat into. The other knows your darkness, not by inference, but by direct immersion. Their mind becomes the chamber where your own hidden ghosts are made visible. This can be a moment of profound psychic shock, a searing exposure that strips away the last vestiges of egoic defense. The shame you have carried, the guilt you have suppressed, the vulnerabilities you have fiercely guarded, all are present, all are known. Yet within this crucible of absolute honesty lies an equally absolute opportunity for transformation. For to see your shadow so undeniably, so completely, through the unflinching mirror of another who truly knows, is to be given a priceless gift, the chance to reclaim these lost parts, to understand their origins, their frustrated power, their yearning for integration, and more. You may also glimpse your golden shadow reflected there, the brilliant talents you disowned out of false humility, the strengths you feared, the beauty you dared not claim. This unsparing mirror then, though perhaps initially terrifying in its truth, offers the path to a wholeness previously unimaginable, compelling you to embrace the totality of your being, not just the curated light, but the rich, fertile, and often surprisingly luminous darkness as well. When the masks of persona have dissolved into ether, and the unsparing mirror of the shadow has been met with courage and fledgling acceptance, what then unfolds in this unprecedented sanctuary of shared being? Could it be that the very sense of a separate I and thou begins to soften, to blur at its well-guarded edges? In this space of absolute psychic permeability, where inner worlds merge without impediment, the deep, often terrifying, often ecstatic, human experience of duality itself may come into question. For if all thoughts are shared, all feelings co-experienced, all hidden landscapes mutually inhabited, where does oneself truly end and the other begin? Imagine two distinct flames, each burning brightly with its own unique hue, its own particular dance. As they draw ever closer, their heat intermingles, their light begins to blend, until for a timeless moment, they might merge into a single, more brilliant, more complex conflagration, a unified fire that is more than the sum of its parts, yet still holds the essence of each. Could this be the threshold of experiencing oneness, not as an intellectual concept, but as a lived, breathed reality, a temporary dissolution of the ego's fierce grip on separateness, a melting into a shared field of consciousness where mine and yin lose their customary distinction? This is the mystical dimension of such an encounter, a potential glimpse into the fundamental interconnectedness of all minds, perhaps even a taste of universal consciousness itself. The ancient mystics spoke of this, the drop rejoining the ocean, remembering its boundless watery essence, the individual soul recognizing its indivisible unity with the oversoul, the Atman with Brahman. In this transparent embrace, the two mind readers might touch upon that profound underlying truth, that separateness is perhaps the grandest illusion, and that beneath the myriad forms of individual expression, there flows a single unbroken stream of consciousness, a unified field of being. This would not be a loss of self, but an expansion into a self far vaster than either had previously conceived. And if this shared consciousness, this taste of oneness, deepens and settles, what then becomes of communication itself? When all thoughts are already known, all feelings already felt, when the inner landscapes are mutually transparent, the very need for the currency of thought, for the exchange of images and emotions, may begin to fall away. The initial torrent, the symphony and storm of shared mental content, might gradually subside, giving way to a silence so profound, so articulate. It makes all prior forms of connection seem like mere whispers at the edge of a boundless ocean. Here, in this luminous stillness, a new language may emerge, or rather an ancient one may be remembered, the unspoken language of pure being. This is a communion that transcends the mind, a direct knowing that flows from essence to essence, unimpeded by the structures of thought or the colorations of emotion. It is a simple, profound resting in mutual presence, a recognition of the other and of oneself at the deepest possible level, the level of fundamental awareness, of shared spiritual ground. Imagine two stars in the cosmic void, each aware of the other not through signals sent across the darkness, but through the silent gravitational embrace that holds them in their celestial dance, through the shared light that emanates from their core. There is nothing to explain, nothing to prove, nothing to defend. There is only the serene, unadorned truth of what is, held in a space of perfect, unconditional acceptance. In this silent dialogue of souls, understanding is not an intellectual achievement but an inherent state. Connection is not a bridge to be built, but the very atmosphere they breathe. Love, perhaps in its most transcendent form, is not an emotion to be felt, but the fundamental resonance of this shared existence. This unspoken language is the music of the spheres heard not with ears but with the soul, a knowing that is as natural and effortless as breathing the light of a new dawn. It is the ultimate mystical encounter, where the search for connection finds its rest not in more knowing, but in simply profoundly being together in the silent, articulate heart of the real. And so we draw back from this speculative vista, this mystical encounter on the far shores of consciousness. The direct, unfiltered merging of two minds may remain an extraordinary, perhaps even mythical, potential. Yet the journey into its imagined depths, beloved, is not without profound meaning for your own human experience, for your own relentless search for authentic connection. For within this exploration of absolute transparency lies a mirror to our deepest spiritual longings, the yearning to be truly seen, to be profoundly known, to be unconditionally accepted, and to meet another soul in a space beyond all pretense, all fear. While you may not hear the explicit thoughts of another, nor feel their emotions as a direct current within your own being, the essence of this mystical encounter whispers to you in the quiet spaces of your own heart. It calls you towards a greater authenticity in your own self-expression, a more courageous vulnerability in your relationships. It invites you to cultivate a deeper empathy, to listen beyond the spoken words to the silent language of another's being, to sense the subtle energies that flow between you, the profound peace of that unspoken language of being, the liberation of shattered masks, the wisdom gleaned from the unsparing mirror. These are not solely the domain of hypothetical mind readers. They are potentials seeded within your own capacity for presence, for compassion, for courageous self-honesty. The echo of such a transparent, sacred union exists within your own silence, within your own ability to connect with yourself and with others from a place of stillness and truth. The mystical encounter, in its ultimate sense, is perhaps a potent metaphor for the soul's ceaseless desire to dissolve the illusion of separation, to be truly seen, truly known, and to rest, at last, in the luminous unified embrace of love and profound understanding, an embrace that begins, always, with the courage to meet the vast, mysterious world within.